Alright, likely a few videos coming. Just really, fast, cheap videos. No editing, blah, blah, blah. Going through the comments on some of Nick's videos, just because it brings up a whole bunch of subjects about how the economy works and all this kind of crap. And so, let's play the game. Alright, so first off, we got I watched Gary's vid, and I agree with you, Nick. Although there is an exception for the net inventor, Tesla, who invented 20th century, electronic motors, blah, blah, blah. Okay, just basically making the point that Tesla went broke, didn't make $1 zillion. Yeah, well, there's lots of examples of that throughout history. And most of these people didn't care about it anyway. I mean, they didn't expect to be billionaires. They might have expected to be able to afford a house and have some kind of life. But they didn't have any the demand that, here, pay me $1 zillion. Einstein wasn't the richest man in the world, even though his brain was, by all reasonable definition, one of the best in human history. He doesn't have there's no Einstein fortune out there. There's no Einstein Foundation. So it's bullshit. Contribution you're never going to have an equitable system for defining its value. And the more important question is what effort, what work was required to create it. And in most of these cases, yes, there's effort involved in making your brain capable of creating invention, being innovative. And you should be rewarded for that investment of your time, the work involved. But in a perfect world, all work, all sacrifice, all time. I mean, if you're picking up garbage for 8 hours a day, or you're thinking about how to design an economic system, those two things aren't dramatically different. They're sacrifices of your time, their energy, frustration, hardship that you endure, things you'd rather be doing, but you're doing that work, and it should have equal value theoretically. Obviously, we have to make concessions to human selfishness and all this other crap. But if we're going to design this, again, if this is a race, and all we need is incentives to get people to run in the race, we can get rid of 99% of the unfairness. Maybe we can't get rid of all the unfairness, but we can get rid of 99% of the cheating. And that's what they do in every other game that is played in this world. They create a set of rules that protect the integrity of the game, that make it as fair as possible. It can't make it perfectly fair, but it makes it as fair as possible. Alright, in the 1990s we had massive boom capital creation in the world of computers. It didn't involve banking. Well, yes, it did involve banking, but well, anyway, most firms fueled growth without any debts whatsoever. That's not even true. I mean, it was all venture capital, and all that venture capital was created in an artificially inflated stock market. So it's just bullshit. It was completely made, all the investment money was completely made out of fucking debt. So whatever, bogus argument. And Nick said, please respect my attempt at neutrality on this. So where's your neutrality, Nick? I don't see any of that. You're talking about stupid, inane war games. You're saying that certain things are off limits because people can't understand them. That's what's impractical because they'll never go for it. They won't go for the truth, so let's not argue the truth. I mean, what a pile of shit. I do not have a whole premise that capitalism needs a bank borrowing model. I don't know what model you're talking about then. You're talking about people owning capital and getting rewarded for having capital, getting paid to have capital. Hopefully knowing this will help you put over your ideas more clearly. Well, you haven't done a very good job, Nick. War games, I mean, that's not exactly putting across an idea. It's just bullshit. I think my system's better than your system. Nah, 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 nah. Fuck you. Well, Nick, you may be neutral, but you're thinking inside the box. Exactly. So he's not neutral. He's inside the fucking capitalist box. Period. Alright, that's what these videos are for. So you can come up with the old out-of-the-box ideas and share them with everybody else. There's no point in sharing them with everybody else because you close the fucking door on them. You say we're not going to talk about interest and inheritance and birthright, and how corrosive and destructive that is to the economy, and how as soon as you allow wealth to consolidate, your economy is doomed because you will devalue work. I mean, if you're giving them money for nothing, you're devaluing money. You're saying that somebody isn't going to be willing to die in a coal mine anymore for the money because it's not worth anything, but you gave it to people to do nothing. Why should one person go into a coal mine for it if another person doesn't have to do a damn thing for it? Jesus. Alright, before you argue, there is no you as pertains to the soul, etc. And now you assert that people are wrong when their little yous feel they should be rewarded for innovation. Yeah, so this guy's just basically making the point. What happened to all this you didn't build yourself argument? Oh, but one minute you say you didn't make you, the world around you made you, and now all of a sudden you're saying you're a you entitled to a birthright. Alright, so now Mystic. There is no you that makes genius ideas happen. I assert that people are wrong to think there is an I that makes genius happen. Regardless, the point is that the sentient creature, the sentience, alright, is just a parasitical part of the identity of the machine, the thinking computer machine. And the two things don't define merit. The merit of the sentience is separate from the merit of the brain doing any cogitating. And the point is that all we're valuing is its productive impact. That's the net thing. So let's say you had a commune. You're going to throw a bunch of people in a commune. All right, of course we're going to have a problem because some guys are going to want to be loafers. They're not going to want to make the contribution because they're not going to understand the concept. They're going to say, I want to sit by the pool and look at the women in the bikinis. I don't want to clean up the cesspool. And so some other guys will know their mission, like me, and they'll be like the horse and Animal Farm, and they'll do all the fucking work because they're all for the mission. They're all for getting the job done. All right, they're all for it. And so what are you going to do to stop that? Well, there's lots of ways you can stop it. I guess for me, I would just say that we all should wear labels, okay? We all should be wearing little robes or whatever we wear, and it should either say on it, productive fucking citizen or loafing piece of shit. And then on criminals, we can just put, game over, you're too fucking broken to be worth the fucking trouble. All right? I mean, we can judge each other based on our productivity. All right, and it's not the explicit value of the productivity itself. It's the effort to be productive that's the key ingredient. It's not whether you win the race. It's how hard you run in the race. We want to encourage people to run their hardest. We don't care whether they win or not. We want to reward them for running. Ugh, fucking dumbasses. All right, so the guy says he should have no real claim on the idea because it just happened to happen. In what is termed his brain. Exactly. This guy gets it. Mind prison. This guy gets it, and apparently Nick has lost it entirely. All right, Nick's response. For me, as long as you are clear that the them is in drives them. As long as you are clear what them is, in drives them. I will leave you to argue the validity of that comment with others. Yeah, well, Nick, try again, because that was pretty fucking incomprehensible. So maybe you ought to take your own advice and work on it until you get it right. You know, all right, so this Valhalla guy says to the Mind Prism guy, you said innovations don't just fall into people's heads. A consciousness expectation of reward drives them. The reward may not necessarily be financial. Right, Tesla's reward was to uplift humanity. Exactly, and Edison could have been probably the richest man in the world, but what did he do with most of his money? He reinvested it in inventing. And some of those were failures, but that was his game. He loved the idea of changing the world, of creating civilization. That was his fucking passion. His passion wasn't to build a goddamn mansion and fill it full of European statues. All right. Shakespeare's shakes for the trees, or speaks for the trees. I have no problem with borrowing Gary a fish and receiving back a fish, but only when he has a fish to spare to repay the favor. The reward is the smile on Gary's face. Well, this guy gets what basically the concept is. You want to belong to a commune where everybody understands the principle that all their consciousnesses are equal and that the pile of work has to get done. All right, and that somebody has to do it, and there's got to be some sort of, ideally, some sort of equitable distribution of that work and equitable distribution of the rewards of the work, and that's all it takes. And so if you're an honest giver and you just want to be as productive as you can, if everybody has that same motive, they just want the word productive citizen written on their fucking gravestone, you know, the world was a better place because of this fucker living. If that's their only ambition is to get those words written on their gravestone, well then you have a community that will work. All right, you don't need all this money and all this bullshit because you're all honestly trying to do only one thing, which is be productive as a person. Create as much joy and comfort and as little suffering in all the consciousnesses as possible. So yeah, but that's idealistic. That's right. We likely will have to cut that down, shape that to fit into the average human being's brain, because they're not going to get that ideal. They're not going to be willing to jump into that pool because they're afraid that they're not going to get what they deserve, what they think they deserve. But yeah, and we only have to shave it a little though. We don't have to shave it into billion-dollar rewards for renting operating systems to a sucker corporation. You know. Alright, that's it for video 1. More and more and more to come.